After 4 long, tense days, we've reached a historic moment in this election. We can now project the winner of the presidential race. CNN projects Joseph R. Biden Jr. is elected the 46th president of the United States, winning the White House and denying President Trump a second term. We're able to make this projection because CNN projects Biden wins Pennsylvania, the former vice president, in his third run for the highest office, pulling off a rare defeat of a sitting commander-in-chief. With this victory, Kamala Harris is set to become the first woman and the first person of color to be the vice president. Again, CNN projects Joe Biden will become the 46th president of the United States. And Jake, he is now President-elect Joe Biden.
Welcome to the Politicrat. I'm Omar Moore. It is Saturday, November the 7th, 2020. On this edition of the Politicrat, Joseph Robinette Biden Jr., Kamala Devi Harris, his story and her story, as they are elected President and Vice President of the United States of America. That coming up next. Welcome back. What a momentous day this has been. Saturday, November the 7th, 2020 will go down in history as one of the most critical and momentous days this country, the United States of America, has ever witnessed. For this would be the day that the American public elected Joe Biden and Kamala Harris to the presidency and vice presidency of the United States of America, respectively. Joseph Robinette Biden Jr. and Kamala Devi Harris made history of their own. Joe Biden became the oldest man ever to be elected president and the oldest person ever elected president, and just the second Catholic to be elected president after John F. Kennedy. And Kamala Harris, the senator out of California, became the first woman elected vice president, the first black woman elected vice president, the first woman of color elected vice president, the first woman of South American descent elected vice president, the first person of South American descent elected vice president. A lot of firsts. Senator Harris is also the first Democratic politician west of the Mississippi to be elected to a Democratic ticket to the White House. No other Democratic ticket had previously had a person on it who served in the White House as part of a winning ticket. The only, as far as I can recall, Californians who have ever been part of a ticket that have ended up serving in the White House on a winning ticket are Ronald Reagan and Richard Nixon. Now, technically, Ronald Reagan is from Illinois, but California became his adopted home state. And, of course, he was governor of California in the 1960s. And, of course, Richard Milhouse Nixon was the other person in the White House who came from California. He was naturally from California. He was from Orange County, California. Whittier, California was his home city in Southern California. Of course, as you know, he served in the presidency in 1968, his first term, and then part, of course, of the second term, before he had to resign, of course, in 1974, due to the the Watergate scandal that he was forced to resign the presidency over. A lot of firsts today in the United States of America on a momentous day. And look, I don't know where you were. Where were you? I mean, where were you when you found out that the projection was officially made and Joe Biden and Kamala Harris would be officially elected to these offices as president-elect and vice president-elect? Where were you? Were you on social media? Were you watching your television? Were you walking down the street? Were you on the telephone with somebody? Is that how you found out? Were you, sleeping? I don't know, wherever you might have been in the world, you might have been sleeping. Certainly if you were in New Zealand or in Japan, you were sleeping. And you may well have missed the news of that moment, and then you had to find out about it when you woke up, because at that time of the morning it was very, very early the next morning in both of those countries. So, if you were in Japan or in New Zealand or in Australia, you probably were sleeping when this news was announced by Wolf Blitzer, who on CNN on this Saturday did a really good job capturing that moment as you heard it there. A moment that crystallized, for me, was relief. I found out about this news via text, which kind of ticked me off because I was actually doing a couple of things, and I had stepped away from the television, which was on mute, so I knew that I was in trouble then. But I never thought that around just before 8:30 this morning Pacific U.S. time that there would be any kind of a announcement of a projection of a winner. I had absolutely no idea that happening. I mean, it seemed very pedestrian. I mean, I knew that Saturday, today, was going to be the day that this was going to be over and done with, and it would be a fait accompli. That I definitely knew. What I didn't know was when it was going to be. And unluckily for me, in a very selfish way, it was just before 8:30 this morning Pacific time in the U.S. that this announcement from Wolf Blitzer came down, and this CNN projection. So after I got this text from someone, by the way, someone on the East Coast texted me, and they looked at my phone and oh my goodness. And the text said, the CNN has just projected Joe Biden the winner. And I'm like, whoa, yes. That was my instant response. And then I scurried off to the television set and boom, there it was on the chyron. Joe Biden elected 46th president of the United States. And I was happy, but I was kind of ticked off at myself for missing it live. I was like, darn it. Well, thank God for DVRs, because what I did then was quickly rewind the DVR, and lo and behold, and goodness gracious me, lookity here it was. And I got to watch that projection, and you heard it just a few minutes ago. And when I watched that from Wolf Blitzer, someone who I do not think is a very... Well, anyway, let me stay away from that today. I'm not going to... let me stay away from the negativity. Wolf Blitzer evoked something, though. He knows how to not only sell that moment, but really take possession of that moment. These projections that inevitably mean that the world has changed for not only people here in the United States, but around the globe. that if you are anybody at all, no matter which station in life you're in, that the world took a huge deep breath and a big exhale after that projection was announced. People around the world were really wondering about us here in the United States. And they were wondering, what the heck are you guys going to do about this blankety blank that you've got there in the White House blowing up your country? What you gonna do? Well, dear world, this is what we did.
After 4 long, tense days, we've reached a historic moment in this election. We can now project the winner of the presidential race. CNN projects Joseph R. Biden Jr. is elected the 46th president of the United States, winning the White House and denying President Trump a second term. We're able to make this projection because CNN projects Biden wins Pennsylvania, the former vice president, in his third run for the highest office, pulling off a rare defeat of a sitting commander-in-chief. With this victory, Kamala Harris is set to become the first woman and the first person of color to be the vice president. Again, CNN projects Joe Biden will become the 46th president of the United States. And Jake, he is now President-elect Joe Biden.
There you have it. You know, that projection just means everything. So nice, I played it twice. And it was a really great announcement by Wolf Blitzer. You know, I remember back in 2008 when he did the very same thing, except he mentioned the name President Barack Obama. Barack Obama elected president. You know, that was a special moment in this country's history. And I remember where I was here on the couch watching it, and it was just so special. It was such an important moment. And Joe Biden was part of that moment too. You know, Joe Biden. And, you know, I'll leave it for another day to talk about him, as I have done. I've talked about him before, but many times in previous episodes. I'll leave it to another day, maybe the next day or two, to talk about Joe Biden the man and Joe Biden the politician specifically. That's really what I'll get to in the next few days, and about the campaign and about what we can expect from here and what we need to do from here and all of that. That will come in a few days' time. But this now is a time for celebration and relief, because I think if you had to ask the majority of people in this country, particularly those and specifically those who voted for Joe Biden, what their primary emotion was, I dare say that it would be relief. I think that relief would be the predominant emotion of the day. Now, you know, it's not a fait accompli or a guarantee that most people feel that way, but if I had to guess, I think most people would be feeling relief. People would be feeling joy. People would be feeling a sense of, a monumental happiness, because people all over the country were in the streets within 5 minutes of the Wolf Blitzer projection. Cameras were all over the country. And you got to see the people in the streets, from Chicago to Milwaukee to Indiana to Detroit to New York to San Francisco to Los Angeles to Atlanta. I mean, it was just incredible. It was like dominoes, a domino effect around the country. People all over the country, in the streets, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, everywhere. They were all over the place. Many of them under the age of 50 in the streets. Mostly people who were under 45, actually. They looked very young. And black, white, Asian, Latinx, straight, gay, Native American. Everybody were in the streets cheering. This was a party atmosphere. I mean, there was even a moment like this that happened. I've got to play this to you. This is from CNN. Gary Tuchman, who was reporting from Atlanta. There was such joy and jubilation. And in fact, you got to just listen to this.
Driving on this very busy street right now. A couple of things that are concerning that's important to mention. Number one. Hey guys, quiet while I talk, please. Quiet while I talk. It's very important to point this out. I'm going to walk this way. That there's very little social distancing here.
So, there you go. Gary Tuchman telling the crowd to be quiet. I mean, here's what we do, right? We don't storm the streets armed. We don't do that kind of thing in this country. We, the victors of this election, who backed 75 million of us and counting, who backed Joe Biden, we don't go into the streets with guns. We don't go into the streets angry. We don't go into the streets threatening people. We don't go into the streets. Whether we win or whether we lose, we don't go into the streets threatening people. We don't go into the streets threatening to end the lives of politicians. We don't do that kind of thing. We don't do that kind of thing. We don't get in front of voting count precincts and areas and stand in front of them in mobs with guns. We don't do that kind of stuff. What we do is we fill the streets with joy and exuberance and happiness. That's what we do. And we did it today. And we did it to the fullest. Our hearts were full. And the joy registered through the roof. And that is what we do. And so, as we get ready in 73, 74 roughly days to usher in a new era in the White House and a new era in the country, let's not lose sight of the joy and the passion and the enthusiasm and the exuberance and the love. And let's channel that into an energy around an agenda that pushes for progressive change. Because that is what we're going to have to start drafting up here. After the bloom falls off the rose, after the honeymoon comes to an end, and as we begin to get close, if not closer, to a brand new administration and a 46th president of the United States and the newly minted vice president of the United States. Let's make sure that we do not fall asleep during the dawning of a new era and a new Democratic presidency. This is a new day, and we are making sure that we do not fall asleep during another Democratic presidential administration. I'm going to be playing you the speeches in full of Joe Biden, the president-elect, and of Vice Presidential-elect Kamala Harris. The Vice President-elect spoke first, followed by Joe Biden. Those two speeches coming up in a few moments. But I do want to play a couple of other bits here. One from Dana Bash, who I think really summed it up very well. And she really did get this right. And I'll come back on the other side of it and just summarize my own thoughts.
And let's talk about Joe Biden.
Yes.
5 decades in public service, 3 times running for president. He finally got there. And he's the most conventional of politicians. But in this election cycle, his path has been so unconventional. Remember, he beat out the biggest, most diverse field in the Democratic primary. And he is an older white man who did that. He lost Iowa, the oldest. He lost Iowa. He lost New Hampshire. And it was Democratic black voters who saved him and propelled him to this point. And that started in South Carolina. And he made a comeback just this year like we've never seen. And also remember, Joe Biden is defined by his personal loss. His calling card is knowing how to heal himself. And what he ran on and what he says he is going to do is try to heal this nation. Now he's got to turn his attention to that. And can you imagine a more arduous task?
Dana Bash was absolutely correct there. Joe Biden really can thank, and you'll hear him thank them in just a few minutes. Joe Biden can thank the African American community. He can thank the black community for this win. He owes a heck of a lot to the black community across America, quite frankly, throughout his political career. In Wilmington, Delaware, when he was elected senator back in 1972, exactly, would you believe, 48 years ago tonight, on this very date, November the 7th of 1972, it was the black vote that helped propel him. He was a friend to Wilmington, which was a predominantly black city, and is pretty much that again right now, or it certainly has been. And he worked at a local swimming pool and was a lifeguard there at a pool with predominantly black neighborhoods. He got to develop a fealty with the black community, and that was something that he has been able to maintain over a 48-year career. And you will hear him talk about that in his speech, that he owes them, and he does owe us. Whether it was with the vice presidential pick, he repaid that with Senator Harris. Whether it was with the situation, of course, of South Carolina before that with Jim Clyburn and a black vote there, the conservative black vote came out for him there. And of course, Stacey Abrams, immeasurable influence on the reason why this moment has happened. Stacey Abrams has worked so darn hard in the state of Georgia and around the country, I might add, to get black and brown people out to vote. And a numerous group of others have, including Chuck Rocha, who I have had on this podcast a few weeks back, a couple of months back, I think now. And Maria Teresa Kumar. Also, both of those individuals I've just named are really two of the biggest factors in getting the Latinx or the Latino vote out. Certainly, Chuck Rocha's Nuestro PAC has been very influential, as has Voto Latino, the organization led and run by Marisa Teresa Kumar. Did a tremendous job of getting voters out in these communities. They were certainly the difference the Latinx community were in places like Arizona and Nevada, in parts of Florida and all over the country. Very important. Texas, even though Biden lost Texas, the turnout there had gone up dramatically. Not only that, we also saw in the black communities were very important in this election for Joe Biden. Had it not been for the black vote in particular, Joe Biden would not be giving this speech tonight. He would not have become the 46th president. There's just no way around it. Black folk, more than anybody else, voted for Joe Biden, and in huge numbers. It was roughly 11, maybe in terms of black men, between 9 and 11% of them, maybe a little bit less, who voted for Joe Biden. May have been a little bit more than that, but let's put it in perspective. It was around 85, 86% of black men voting for Joe Biden, as far as I know. And for black women, once again, it was in the high 90s, around 98%, 99%. And without those kinds of numbers, Joe Biden does not get to measure up the drapes in the White House. He just does not do that. It's as simple as that. And Joe Biden knows where his bread is buttered, and it is buttered with the black community in the United States of America. There is no question. And I think that we will see him make further payments and installments to the black community here in the coming weeks and months. And we should certainly push him to do that. And I don't necessarily even think it has to be, say, Stacey Abrams. I think the Democratic Party should be using the models of what Stacey Abrams has done, what Chuck Rocha has done, what Teresa Kumar has done, and you know what Color of Change has done with Rashad Robinson at the helm there, or the NAACP, who have urged people to vote. They're a nonpartisan group, as are Color of Change, I believe. But you know all these groups might be. But the point is that there are so many other groups I've not named who have very much the right to celebrate their heroic efforts. But I do want to make it very importantly clear that the black community, first and foremost, black women, were the key and the backbone to Joe Biden's success in this election, in the primaries. I mean, that is a no doubter. And Joe Biden, I know, realizes that, and he made it clear tonight that he certainly does. But Dana Bash is correct. You know, the black vote was the critical thing. And Joe Biden will be very, very happy about it. And he, again, he points that out in the speech. And Abby Phillip, well, look, I'll just play a little bit of what she had to say here.
As you said, Dana, a white, old man who did it and who was chosen by an increasingly young, diverse party to do one thing. That's regain the ground that was lost 4 years ago in parts of this country that have been traditionally Democratic. And he did it in a way that was always underestimated by even members of his own party. This is a man who is not known for his discipline, who ran an incredibly conservative, disciplined, understated general election campaign. Mm-hmm. And it is for that reason that he was elected today as president of the United States. But I just want to say one more thing, Jake, as you said, tens of millions of Americans, for them today, this moment is a huge sigh of relief. They've spent 4 years, a majority of Americans spent 4 years being governed by a president they did not elect. Today, that ends for them. And I think it is a cathartic moment. Mm-hmm. We have to give credence to that, a cathartic moment for millions and millions of Americans. And
Abby Phillip, spot on as well here. You know, Biden did run a very straight-laced campaign, pretty much, you know, especially considering the times. He really did. And I'm going to get into that again, as I said, another day. Maybe tomorrow, maybe another day. But Abby Phillip is absolutely on point here. And her analysis, by the way, has been very good. And I've not always thought that Abby Phillip was necessarily someone who had the best insights, because I found myself disagreeing with her a lot in what she was saying. But not in any hostile way. That's not the thing at all. But I just felt was off target on some things. But she's done an excellent job here. And I hope that she continues to get the exposure she richly deserves on CNN. Here's you want to listen to another response from this day, this long, joyous day? Well, listen to Van Jones. I want you to listen to his reaction. This was soon after Wolf Blitzer's projection, just like the two pieces I just played you from Dana Bash and Abby Phillip. Here's what and how Van Jones reacted.
It's easier to be a parent this morning. It's easier to be a dad. It's easier to tell your kids character matters. It matters. Telling the truth matters. Being a good person matters. And it's easier for a whole lot of people. If you're Muslim in this country, you don't have to worry if the president doesn't want you here. If you're an immigrant, you don't have to worry if the president's going to be happier to have babies snatched away or send dreamers. back for no reason. It's just vindication for a lot of people who have really suffered. You know, the I can't breathe. You know, that wasn't just George Floyd. That was a lot of people that felt that they couldn't breathe. Every day you're waking up and you're getting these tweets and you just don't know. And you're going to the store and people who have been afraid to show their racism are getting nastier and nastier to you. And you're worried about your kids and you're worried about your sister. And can she just go to Walmart and get back into her car without somebody saying something to her? And you spent so much of your life energy just trying to hold it together. And this is a big deal for us just to be able to get some peace and have a chance for a reset. And the character of the country matters. And being a good man matters. You know, I just want my sons to look at this. Look at this. You know, it's easy to do it the cheap way and get away with stuff, but it comes back around. It comes back around, and it's a good day for this country. I'm sorry for the people who lost. For them, it's not a good day, but for a whole lot of people, it's a good day.
The outpouring of emotion there from Van Jones is real and genuine, and quite frankly, it wouldn't be anything else. Why would it be? This was a moment that a lot of people, a lot of black people, like Van Jones included, felt a wellspring of relief, I think. I think if I had to, again, describe what my predominant emotion was, it was really relief. And then the tears of joy and the giddiness and the excitement. The celebration and everything else that went with that. The champagne was flowing here. Having an absolute ball. This was terrific this day. And a long day, a joyous day. And at the end of it all, a feeling of satisfaction and relief, I think. And I will ask you, what was your predominant emotion? And if I haven't posed that question already on this podcast episode, I'm gonna post it on Twitter and you will find it there at the Popcorn REEL. Your predominant emotion on Saturday, November the 7th, 2020, wherever you are in the world and wherever you were on Saturday, November the 7th, what was your predominant emotion? I mean, the choices are happiness and pride, relief, tears of joy, or all of the above. And right now, there's only one of those choices that is winning dramatically. I think you can guess which one of those choices it is. But I do have that particular question. It's a poll pinned to my Twitter page. It's a pinned tweet. Now that the campaign is officially over, and the era of transition begins, and the era of governance begins essentially now, but really, for all intents and purposes, obviously on the 20th of January, 2021. But now that the campaign is over, what was your predominant emotion on Saturday, November the 7th, 2020. What was that for you? Was it happiness and pride? Was it relief? Was it tears of joy? Or was it all of the above? Get in touch with me on Twitter, please. Please, dear listener, please do. At the Popcorn REEL. This is a 24-hour poll, so you will be able to respond to it within 24 hours of the posting of this podcast episode. So make sure that you get in on the action, because a lot of people already are. I can tell you that right now. So please get involved and answer that question for me, will you please? So Van Jones there, and a lot of people felt the way he did today, and I certainly did, This was a very difficult year for all of us in many different ways. Some more difficult than others. Some of you out there have lost loved ones. Some of you out there have had the unfortunate and really evil misfortune of being struck by this virus. It could be another health challenge that you may have been facing during the course of this year. It could have been whatever it might have been in your life during the course of 2020 that has provided a challenge for you personally, for your family, for your children, for your friends, for your relatives, for your mother and father, for whomever in your extended family. And, this 2020 year was a year that I think we will all look back on, at least a great many of us, and shove in the rearview mirror forever. This was really a horrible year. And now that we are into the final, roughly 7 weeks of the year remaining, I think most people are looking forward to just getting to 2021 and turning the page on a wretched calendar year and hopefully go into 2021 and try to move into a different realm to the extent that that will be possible, because we still have this virus around. And may I add that while the vast majority of us, because of course there were 70 million people who weren't celebrating this moment today, they were not celebrating it because they didn't vote for Joe Biden. But let me just tell you that we had over 1,000 deaths again on Saturday from COVID-19 here in the United States of America. Over 1,000 deaths again. And another record number of cases, I think, or very close to it. More than 120,000 cases, if not around that number. And we now have still a few more weeks before we get to an officially transitioned Joe Biden and Kamala Harris administration. The good thing, though, is that Biden and Harris are already working with their own healthcare team, their own health officials, and they are putting together plans right now, even though they're not officially governing yet. But this has been one heck of a day, a long day, tired and happy and punch drunk, happy, not drunk literally, even though champagne has been flowing throughout the day here. The cars have been honking in San Francisco. Well, that's gone a little bit now. You don't hear any of that at the moment, but earlier today you heard plenty of it here in the town, and there are people I know in different parts of the city who had registered the very same assent and agreement there. There are people, you could hear them honking their cars and cheering, and that effect was repeated all over the land, in Evanston, Illinois, and in Indiana, and all across the country. There was jubilation and relief, and I think the world was relieved too. I got tweets from people in different countries who were thanking me, which is very nice of them to do, and I got people thanking me, loyal listeners thanking me, people on Twitter who follow me thanking me, and I thank them. But most importantly, I thank them. I thank everybody who voted for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. I think I mentioned that in yesterday's episode. If I didn't, I'll mention it again for the second time in 30 seconds. I thank everybody who voted for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. And you voted for decency. You voted for change. You voted for putting this country upright, or starting to do that, getting us out of this horrible position we're in, getting this economy back on track, getting us jobs back in this country in terms of jobs for the environment, because that's really how we're going to start to tack back jobs and bring back jobs. Manufacturing jobs, forget it, they are gone. You will notice that these campaigns did not talk about bringing back manufacturing jobs. And there's a reason why, at least not in the traditional manufacturing sense. But I just want to say that, this is, look, this is a victory for us. This is our moment, our victory. And in the coming days, I will talk about, and you already know these things, but I'm going to talk about the challenges, about what we're going to have to do, how we're going to have to stay active, how we're going to have to build an agenda that will empower and enrich the lives of those who have not been heard, who are traditionally taken for granted, for people like yourself who may feel like previous administrations, no matter which party they are from, did not really address your interests. And that's gonna be part of the next step here. But for now, for the next day or two, even for longer than that, celebration is going to be a good thing, because we've not had anything to really celebrate about in 2020. We really have not had much, if anything at all, to celebrate. We've had all of the loss of life at the hands of these killer cops out here, Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, Rayshard Brooks. I can go on and on and on. Of course, you had these white mobs murdering black people. Ahmaud Arbery earlier this year in Georgia. We've had the situation in Kenosha with this violent white male terrorist and Trump supporter did. Murderer. He killed 2 people, admitted it, and shot the arm off of a third person. And all 3 of these victims were white, by the way. This was just horrendous stuff that happened this year. And I didn't even get to everything else. Do I really want to? I could go down. There's so much stuff that happened this year. Oh, and they not to mention then people like John Lewis no longer here, and RBG no longer, Ruth Bader Ginsburg no longer here. And the Supreme Court situation with Amy Coney Barrett being rammed through, while Republican state legislatures in Pennsylvania, among other places, deliberately made an effort not to have the vote count done before Election Day and slow things down so that we had to agonize for 4 blooming days. That was the choice of the Republican state legislators in Pennsylvania. The Democratic governor there said, look, we've got to have this count start before Election Day because there's just going to be an overload of ballots that have come in. These mail-in ballots have to start being counted before Election Day, said the Democratic governor, Tom Wolf. And you know what the Republican state legislators said in Pennsylvania to him? F off. You're going to have to wait until after Election Day. And that's exactly what happened in at least 7 counties. And because of that meant that we had to sit here for 4 days and wait. That count would have been finished by late on Tuesday night. Had it been done beforehand, we could have probably been here on Tuesday, November the 3rd, at around maybe 10 o'clock at night Pacific time, maybe 9 o'clock at night Pacific time, 12 o'clock in the morning Eastern at the very latest. And we could probably have got that count from Pennsylvania then, because the mail-in ballots, had the law allowed, had the Republican state legislators allowed, would have accounted for that. They would have started counting them a few days before Election Day, which is what happened in Florida. As the mail-in ballots came in Florida, they were being counted immediately, almost immediately. And hey presto, what did you get in Florida on the night of the election, the final day of it, on November 3rd? A count. You got a complete account on the night of. But you didn't get that in Pennsylvania. And so for 4 days, people were waiting, they were exhausted, they were tense, they were biting their nails and the lead and the chain, all because of the Republicans who wanted to try to buy you-know-who some time so that he could lie some more, as he continued to today. But, I am thankful for this day. It's a long time coming. History has been made. We're going to have a woman as vice president in this country. My goodness, it's taken all of this time, over 240 years, to have a woman be the vice president of this country. Wow. Better late than never, I say. Welcome back. And on top of that, a black woman. We had a black woman. This is so meaningful to so many of us. And I thank black women. I want to just personally say thank you to each and every one of you who voted for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. And thank you for being who you are. You really have propelled the conscience of this country for decades and centuries. I think that Sojourner Truth and Harriet Tubman and Ida B. Wells and Shirley Chisholm and Barbara Jordan and Madam C.J. Walker and Dr. Coretta Scott King and Dr. Betty Shabazz and so many other black women would be very, very proud of you today, black woman, for what you have done, for the conscience raising you have done, for the example that you have set, for the humanity and the people that you are. This is such a proud moment. And now a black woman will be vice president of this country, the United States of America. Look at what we can do. Just look at what we can do in this country. You know, for all of the heartache and pain and the turmoil and the injustice and the oppression and the enslavement that go on in this country or have gone on in this country, there are moments every now and again where America actually does get things right. Welcome back. So here now are in their entirety. You just have to listen to these two speeches. Now, you can watch them on a number of platforms, YouTube, C-SPAN. I'm going to put a link in. I know I say that, and half the time there isn't a link, but I do promise you that there will be one in the liner notes of this episode, the link to it, so you can see these speeches as well. But I'm going to put the audio in because there was a lovely fireworks display afterwards. It was just amazing stuff. But you have to watch from Wilmington, Delaware, just a few hours ago on this Saturday night, November 7th, 2020, historic speeches, first by the Vice President-elect Kamala Harris, followed by the President-elect Joe Biden. Man, it feels good to say that. It feels good to say that about both of them. Here now, without further ado, is Vice President-elect Senator Kamala Harris.
Please welcome the Vice President-elect of the United States of America, Kamala Harris.
Good evening. Good evening. Thank you. Thank you. Good evening. So, thank you. Good evening. So, Congressman John Lewis, before his passing, wrote, "Democracy is not a state, it is an act." And what he meant was that America's democracy is not guaranteed. It is only as strong as our willingness to fight for it. To guard it and never take it for granted. And protecting our democracy takes struggle, it takes sacrifice, but there is joy in it, and there is progress, because we, the people, have the power to build a better future. And when our very democracy was on the ballot in this election, with the very soul of America at stake, and the world watching, you ushered in a new day for America. To our campaign staff and volunteers, this extraordinary team, thank you for bringing more people than ever before into the democratic process. And for making this victory possible. To the poll workers and election officials across our country who have worked tirelessly to make sure every vote is counted, our nation owes you a debt of gratitude. You have protected the integrity of our democracy. And to the American people who make up our beautiful country, thank you for turning out in record numbers to make your voices heard. And I know times have been challenging, especially the last several months. The grief, sorrow, and pain, the worries and the struggles. But we have also witnessed your courage, your resilience, and the generosity of your spirit. For 4 years, you marched and organized for equality and justice, for our lives and for our planet. And then you voted. And you delivered a clear message. You chose hope and unity, decency, science, and yes, truth. You chose Joe Biden as the next president of the United States of America. And Joe is a healer, a uniter, a tested and steady hand, a person whose own experience of loss gives him a sense of purpose that will help us as a nation reclaim our own sense of purpose. And a man with a big heart who loves with abandon. It's his love for Jill, who will be an incredible First Lady. It's his love for Hunter and Ashley and his grandchildren and the entire Biden family. And while I first knew Joe as vice president, I really got to know him as the father who loved Bo, my dear friend who we remember here today. And to my husband, Doug, and our children, Cole and Ella, and my sister, Maya, and our whole family, I love you all more than I can ever express. We are so grateful to Joe and Jill for welcoming our family into theirs on this incredible journey. And to the woman most responsible for my presence here today, my mother, Kamala Harris, who is always in our hearts. When she came here from India at the age of 19, she maybe didn't quite imagine this moment, but she believed so deeply in an America where a moment like this is possible. And so I am thinking about her and about the generations of women, Black women, Asian, white, Latina, Native American women, who throughout our nation's history have paved the way for this moment tonight. Women who fought and sacrificed so much for equality and liberty and justice for all, including the Black women who are often, too often, overlooked, but so often prove they are the backbone of our democracy. All the women who have worked to secure and protect the right to vote for over a century, 100 years ago with the 19th Amendment, 55 years ago with the Voting Rights Act, and now in 2020 with a new generation of women in our country who cast their ballots and continued the fight for their fundamental right to vote and be heard. Tonight I reflect on their struggle, their determination, and the strength of their vision to see what can be unburdened by what has been. And I stand on their shoulders. And what a testament it is to Joe's character that he had the audacity to break one of the most substantial barriers that exists in our country and select a woman as his vice president. But while I may be the first woman in this office, I will not be the last. Because every little girl watching tonight sees that this is a country of possibilities. And to the children of our country, regardless of your gender, our country has sent you a clear message. Dream with ambition, lead with conviction, and see yourselves in a way that others may not, simply because they've never seen it before. But know that we will applaud you every step of the way. And to the American people, no matter who you voted for, I will strive to be a vice president like Joe was to President Obama, loyal, honest, and prepared, waking up every day thinking of you and your family. Because now is when the real work begins, the hard work, the necessary work, the good work, the essential work to save lives and beat this epidemic, to rebuild our economy so it works for working people, to root out systemic racism in our justice system and society, to combat the climate crisis, to unite our country and heal the soul of our nation. And the road ahead will not be easy, but America is ready. And so are Joe and I. We have elected a president who represents the best in us, a leader the world will respect and our children will look up to, a commander-in-chief who will respect our troops and keep our country safe, and a president for all Americans. And it is now my great honor to introduce the President-elect of the United States of America, Joe Biden.
Americans. And the people who brought me to the dance, Delawareans. I see my buddy Senator Tom Carper down there, and I think Senator Coons is there, and I think the governor's around. Is that Ruth Ann? And that former Governor Ruth Ann Minner. Most importantly, my sisters-in-law and my sister Valerie. Anyway. Folks, the people of this nation have spoken. They've delivered us a clear victory, a convincing victory, a victory for we the people. We've won with the most votes ever cast from presidential ticket in the history of the nation. 74 million. What I must admit has surprised me. Tonight, we're seeing all over this nation, all cities and all parts of the country, indeed across the world, an outpouring of joy, of hope, renewed faith in tomorrow, bring a better day. And I'm humbled by the trust and confidence you placed in me. I pledge to be a president who seeks not to divide, but unify. Who doesn't see red states and blue states, only sees the United States. And work with all my heart, with the confidence of the whole people, to win the confidence of all of you. And for that is what America, I believe, is about. It's about people. And that's what our administration will be all about. I sought this office to restore the soul of America, to rebuild the backbone of this nation, the middle class, and to make America respected around the world again. And to unite us here at home. It's the honor of my lifetime that so many millions of Americans have voted for that vision. And now, the work of making that vision is real. It's a task, the task of our time. Folks, as I said many times before, I'm Jill's husband. And I would not be here without her love and tireless support of Jill and my son Hunter and Ashley, my daughter, and all our grandchildren and their spouses and all our family. They're my heart. Jill's a mom, a military mom, an educator. And she has dedicated her life to education. But teaching isn't just what she does, it's who she is. For American educators, this is a great day for y'all. You're going to have one of your own in the White House. And Jill's going to make a great First Lady. I'm so proud of her. And I'll have the honor of serving with the fantastic Vice President who you just heard from, Kamala Harris, who makes history as the first woman, first black woman, the first woman from South Asian descent, the first daughter of an immigrant ever elected in this country. Don't tell me it's not possible in the United States. It's long overdue. And we're reminded tonight of those who fought so hard for so many years to make this happen. But once again, America's bent the arc of the moral universe more toward justice. Kamala, Doug, like it or not, your family, you become an honorary Biden, there's no way out. All those of you who volunteered and worked the polls in the middle of this pandemic, local elected officials, you deserve a special thanks from the entire nation. And to my campaign team and all the volunteers and all who gave so much of themselves to make this moment possible, I owe you. I owe you. I owe you everything. And all those who supported us I'm proud of the campaign we built and ran. I'm proud of the coalition we put together. The broadest and most diverse coalition in history. Democrats, Republicans, independents, progressives, moderates, conservatives, young, old, urban, suburban, rural, gay, straight, transgender, white, Latino, Asian, Native American. I'm meeting, especially those moments, and especially those moments where this campaign was at its lowest ebb, the African American community stood up again for me. You've always had my back, and I'll have yours. I said at the outset, I wanted to represent this campaign to represent and look like America. We've done that. Now that's what I want the administration to look like and act like. For all those of you who voted for President Trump, I understand the disappointment tonight. I've lost a couple times myself. But now, let's give each other a chance. It's time to put away the harsh rhetoric, lower the temperature, see each other again, listen to each other again. And to make progress, we have to stop treating our opponents as our enemies. They are not our enemies. They are Americans. They're Americans. The Bible tells us, to everything there is a season, a time to build, a time to reap and a time to sow, and a time to heal. This is the time to heal in America. Now this campaign is over. What is the will of the people? What is our mandate? I believe it's this. Americans have called upon us to marshal the forces of decency, the forces of fairness, to marshal the forces of science, and the forces of hope in the great battles of our time. The battle to control the virus, the battle to build prosperity, the battle to secure your family's health care, the battle to achieve racial justice and root out systemic racism in this country. And the battle to save our planet by getting climate under control. The battle to restore decency, defend democracy, and give everybody in this country a fair shot. That's all they're asking for, a fair shot. Folks, our work begins with getting COVID under control. We cannot repair the economy, restore our vitality, or relish life's most precious moments, hugging our grandchildren, our children, our birthdays, weddings, graduations, all the moments that matter most to us until we get it under control. On Monday, I will name a group of leading scientists and experts as transition advisors to help take the Biden-Harris COVID plan and convert it into an action blueprint that will start on January the 20th, 2021. That plan will be built on bedrock science. It will be constructed out of compassion, empathy, and concern. I will spare no effort, none, or any commitment to turn around this pandemic. Folks, I'm a proud Democrat, but I will govern as an American president. I'll work as hard for those who didn't vote for me as those who did. Let this grim era of demonization in America begin to end here and now. The refusal of Democrats and Republicans to cooperate with one another, it's not some mysterious force beyond our control. It's a decision, a choice we make. And if we can decide not to cooperate, then we can decide to cooperate. And I believe that this is part of the mandate given to us from the American people. They want us to cooperate in their interest. And that's the choice I'll make. And I'll call on Congress, Democrats and Republicans alike, to make that choice with me. The American story is about slow yet steadily widening the opportunities in America. And make no mistake, too many dreams have been deferred for too long. We must make the promise of the country real for everybody, no matter their race, their ethnicity, their faith, their identity, or their disability. Folks, America has always been shaped by inflection points, by moments in time where we've made hard decisions about who we are and what we want to be. Lincoln in 1860, coming to save the Union. FDR in 1932, promising a beleaguered country a new deal. JFK in 1960, pledging a new frontier. And 12 years ago, when Barack Obama made history, he told us, yes, we can. Well, folks, we stand at an inflection point. We have an opportunity to defeat despair, to build a nation of prosperity and purpose. We can do it. I know we can. I've long talked about the battle for the soul of America. We must restore the soul of America. Our nation is shaped by the constant battle between our better angels and our darkest impulses. And what presidents say in this battle matters. It's time for our better angels to prevail. Tonight, the whole world is watching America. And I believe at our best, America is a beacon for the globe. We will lead not only by the example of our power, but by the power of our example. I've always believed, many of you heard me say it, I've always believed we can define America in one word: possibilities. That, in America, everyone should be given an opportunity to go as far as their dreams and God-given ability will take them. You see, I believe in the possibilities of this country. We're always looking ahead to an America that's freer and more just, ahead to an America that creates jobs with dignity and respect, ahead of America that cures diseases like cancer and Alzheimer's, ahead to an America that never leaves anyone behind, ahead of America that never gives up, never gives in. This is a great nation. It's always been a bad bet to bet against America. We're a good people. This is the United States of America, and there's never been anything we've been not able to do when we've done it together. Folks, in the last days of the campaign, I began thinking about a hymn that means a lot to me and my family, particularly my deceased son, Bo. It captures the faith that sustains me and which I believe sustains America. And I hope it can provide some comfort and solace to 230,000 Americans who've lost a loved one to this terrible virus this year. My heart goes out to each and every one of you. Hopefully this hymn gives you solace as well. It goes like this: and he will raise you up on eagle's wings, bear you on the breath of dawn, and make you to shine like the sun, and hold you in the palm of his hand. And now together, on eagle's wings, we embark on the work that God and history have called upon us to do, with full hearts and steady hands, with faith in America and in each other, with love of country, a thirst for justice. Let us be the nation that we know we can be, a nation united, a nation strengthened, a nation healed. The United States of America, ladies and gentlemen, there's never been anything we've tried we've not been able to do. So remember, as our grandpapa used to say when I walked out of his home when I was a kid up in Scranton, he said, "Joey, keep the faith." And our grandmother, when she was alive, she yelled, "No, Joey, spread it. Spread the faith. God love you all. May God bless America, and may God protect our troops." Thank you, thank you, thank you.
2 fine speeches and 2 great moments in this country's history. A moment and a moment, 2 moments that mark where and how we can be, and mark who we can become and where we can go next. Today was step 1. There is so much work to do. But what we should and must do this weekend especially is celebrate, celebrate, and celebrate. Thank you very much for listening to this edition of The Politicrat. I'm Omar Moore.